Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are back in Better Than Ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, an extraordinarily busy juncture on this Monday in October. The World Series begins tomorrow. The first college football rankings are around the corner. And, of course, a full football Sunday on the menu, which include a 40-year-old man continuing to be the best player in the league. Donovan McNabb has made his way in our studio to talk about all that and a whole lot more. Good morning, Donovan McNabb.
Good morning. Representing 40. I love it.
So, and what can we say? We're not supposed to be able to do this. The oldest quarterback ever to lead the league in passing yardage was Fran Tarkenton in 1978. He was 38. Right now, Tom Brady is on pace to lead the league in passing yards. And, Mike, he's on pace for 4 interceptions.
Yeah, on pace for 34 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a little over 5,000 yards.
And Jeff Saturday was making the observation watching him last night that he still is throwing the ball with maybe even better velocity than he did in the past and better ball placement than in the past. What are you seeing in Tom Brady right now?
You know what? I will say this, and being a former player and now being on the other side of being with the media while we're talking about different things that's going on with the NFL and quarterbacks is obviously the hot topic. The thing that I have to give credit to the New England Patriots, we've talked so much of how they kind of mess up contracts all across the league because, these players have taken these bargains and now it's kind of affected a lot of the players who deserve to get paid high money, but that Tom Brady takes less. Now all of a sudden organizations go at their players and say, hey, well, if Tom took less, and I'm not Tom. I've always had that issue. I'm like, Tom, you continue to mess up the bar for quarterbacks because you keep taking this garbage. But one thing I will say about the New England Patriots, every year they seem to continuously, quietly build around Tom. They'll get a defensive player, one defensive player that stood out. Maybe they'll get a DB. Maybe they'll get a defensive tackle. Maybe they'll get a linebacker. But they'll always seem to bring in weapons around Tom. If it's a running back, if it's a receiver. Think about it. In the offseason, when they traded for Brandon Cooks, no one really talked about it. It was just that, hey, another added weapon. Okay, but Julian Edelman goes down. And Brandon Cooks now slides into that wide receiver position. Where you look at some teams like the Atlanta Falcons, after you make the Super Bowl, it seems like the only thing you change pretty much is the coordinator.
Right.
You fire Brian Cox and you fire some of the defensive line coaches or whatever. You bring in Brian Young. But have they continued to build around what we've seen the Atlanta Falcons now problem seem to be? Because it's consistency. And I said in the beginning of the season, I thought that the Atlanta Falcons were overrated. Atlanta Falcons fans, they were tweeting me to death. Hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, all of a sudden, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons. Is it more of the players, or is it the fact that, Shanahan's gone and now you're bringing Sarkisian in?
Which is it?
Coordinator? To me, it seems like their defense is not the same type of defense. Now,
lost Beasley.
Yeah.
That hurt him.
You lose Beasley, who's your main threat to get rushed on the passer. Okay, but you need more than just Beasley anyway. Then on offense, is it stagnant? No, it's not stagnant. Same type of offense, but their offensive line seems to be getting pounded at times. Matt Ryan is still Matt Ryan. Julio Jones is still Julio Jones. But when you look at just overall, it's tough to repeat. No matter how you look at it. I've been in that situation where you make the Super Bowl or you make the NFC Championship. It's tough to get back to that mode, but you have to continue to build each and every year.
Why? That's fascinating to me. I'm sorry, Mike, but why is that?
Expectations are so high.
It's not the same in any other sports, though, right? I mean,
no, it's not.
Why is it so different in football?
Well, you look at basketball, and basketball pretty much is you look at like teams like Cleveland. Okay, you have LeBron James, you have the guy, but they still continue to bring different pieces, maybe not to the magnitude of LeBron, but still to do their job. For football, it's so much of the non-guaranteed contracts. You have the guys that are out there, and all of a sudden, guys in organizations, GMs, presidents, they think we're fine. We have our same guys. We stay healthy. We'll be fine. No, you have to continue to add to what you have because if teams already are prepared for what you already have. Now you bring in another added weapon on offense or defense. Now that's another problem for defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators against the league that you play. And if guys get hurt, it's an easily transition in because you have depth. And that's a problem with a lot of different teams is they're going with their same guys, but they don't have any depth. So when guys get hurt, when Beasley gets hurt, who's going to step in? Or Julio Jones gets hurt. Right. Now does Sanu all of a sudden turn into the number one wide receiver? No. There's no trust. I don't think that's there as far as the offense is concerned, for Sanu to be the number one guy. So I just think overall, the NFL at this particular point, I mean, think about it. Look, Derek Carr goes down. I mean, you throw E.J. Emmanuel in there, people from Oakland look like they're about to jump off the bridge. Yeah. You know, and so I just think, I mean, Trevor Siemian, in the beginning of the season, we were talking about, well, Trevor Siemian, all he has to do is just don't mess up. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like we're trying to figure out what's wrong with the Denver Broncos. Kansas City loses the game, then all of a sudden they lose another game. It's just kind of like, well, what's going on now? So I just think the storylines of the NFL and the teams, it's more of the depth that you have, and to be able to add more and more weapons to what you already have to be considered to get on.
When you look at New England, this is the first time this week they haven't let someone throw for over 300 yards against them.
Right.
And it happened to be this offense. So the secondary certainly looked better. You know, we heard about communications and guys getting in. Gilmore was supposed to be one of those guys going into that secondary. They
were trying to get rid of Malcolm Butler.
It's exactly right, and he's back. So did you see something different out of them, or just a fact that at some point they're going to come together a little better than they had been?
Well, the thing is, we were killing the New England Patriots because they couldn't stop a flea, running the football. They couldn't stop. I mean, if it was Superman back there throwing the football, or even Superman's little brother, he still would throw for 300. Now, all of a sudden, you play against a team that you played in the Super Bowl. I think what they did was they went back to the defense of when they had a star DB in Darrelle Revis. Have him guard the number 2 guy, and then double team the number 1 guy.
Right.
And then what they were able to do is they were able to get push up the middle. Now that stops the running game in between the tackles, where running backs have to now get outside. Now they're free-flowing with the linebackers and safeties that are coming down to make tackles. And I just think at times Atlanta got a little bit too creative, instead of just staying in their box. Stay in their box of who they are and continue to do that. And there was just no consistency on offense. And New England's a tough place to play, first and foremost, at Gillette Stadium. And Tom looked like Tom from the regular season last year and not the first half of the Super Bowl.
Mike and Mike, Don and McNabb in the studio with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. It was easy for me it is easy for me as just a fan to sit there and watch and say, when Matt Moore came into the game for the Dolphins yesterday, their offense just looked better.
Yeah.
And the numbers
backups always look better.
They're relatively similar, but all kidding aside, and I hear what you're saying, but that is part of it. What I'm wondering is how much of that is the Jets weren't prepared for what he does differently, or because it just looked like they were so much better that I found, and I said on the air this morning, why in the world hasn't he been the quarterback there all season long? Why did they give it to Cutler when they brought him out of the booth and all that kind of stuff? When Moore goes in, they just look like they're clicking on all cylinders. What is that? What was I seeing?
Give
there?
Matt Moore 3-4 games,
and then
you'll be like, oh my God,
he's going to get him too.
Yeah,
so that's going to be the thing is you're going to be able to have enough of a sample size to say, should we keep him in there or put Jay Cutler back in?
And that's the whole thing. Listen, I think Jay has kind of gotten a bad rap a little bit, and he's kind of brought that attention to himself over his career. Me being from Chicago, and I have a lot of friends that are Chicago Bear fans, believe me, I've heard their cry over so many years. And to me, it was just like, well, why don't you just get rid of him? And I just always felt like he had either pictures of somebody or it was like, how is he still there? But then, other quarterbacks like myself are still fighting to see if I'm going to still be in the same place that I am when we've been winning. So I just think for Jay Cutler, it was he and the Adam Gase relationship that he felt like he can bring in a guy that was steady, that can get the ball downfield. Landry and Stills and all these guys that they have on the outside. This is kind of what they needed, a quarterback that can throw the ball through the wall and get the ball way downfield for them if they need be. But I will say this, backups are backups. There's a reason they're backups. And once they get out there and you start to see them a little bit more, then it's kind of like, okay. Think about it. What happened when Carson Palmer went down? Drew Stanton win the game, and it was like, what in the world is going on?
Right.
And I got Cardinal fans, being from Arizona, I got Cardinal fans saying, there's a Drew Stanton sighting, and it's not pretty. And so I just think for people to understand, they always love the backup until he gets in for a period of time. Then it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, when is the starter getting back?
So along those lines, let me go to another team who was given the gift of a bad injury to one of their rivals, and that's Aaron Rodgers being out now. Case Keenum. You go back to Case Keenum 2013, 8 games, then 2 games, then 6 games, then 10 games with the Rams last year, and now he's the guy. Let's say Bradford, we can't trust he's going to be back. Bridgewater, we have no idea. Let's just say Case Keenum is going to be the guy. Right now, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 64% completion, but a backup. He's definitely been a backup. So if he is the guy the rest of the season, what do you think that does for Minnesota?
Well, the thing for me is I'm trying in that division. I said that Detroit in the beginning. I said Detroit will win that division. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with Detroit in the Matthew Stafford era. You give them a big contract. You start out all of a sudden you win it in fourth quarters, and then now you go to New Orleans. It looked like you weren't even ready to play. And then Green Bay. Yeah, I think Brett Hundley is going to be able to add a little bit more than everyone expects. I know, Aaron, it's tough to follow. First of all, it's tough to follow a Hall of Famer. Yeah. No matter how you look at it, if you look all across the league or the organizations, there are Hall of Fame type of quarterbacks that have been there. They haven't found the backup, the guy to be able to replace them for a long period of time. And for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Brett Hundley's not going to come in and all of a sudden become that guy. You have to be able to build that offense around him. I mean, they ran the football well, for Brett Hundley. They weren't able to do that for Aaron Rodgers. So that's one added piece. Now you got to get guys to step up around him. Martellus Bennett. You got to get, all these guys to be able to elevate their game like they did with Aaron Rodgers in there. And sometimes for skill position guys, when they look back and they don't have their security blanket, meaning their quarterback who will throw the ball through two defenders and then they'll look like they make a miraculous catch. When you ask the guys now to make just a normal catch, they'll drop it. And so I just think they have to build that relationship and rapport with Brett Hundley. But I just think when Case Keenum's situation, it's a little different with Case Keenum because he's a backup that will come in and there's no expectations for him. If he completes 64% of his passes, throw 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, that's a great day for him. Normal day for a lot of starting quarterbacks. Right. But they're still trying to get Teddy Bridgewater back out there. They're still trying to get Bradford out there. So that should tell you right there, okay, they're happy with what he's been doing, but he's the backup. It's not like he's going to surpass the starter. You're doing what you're supposed to do as the backup. Matt Moore did what he was supposed to do as the backup to go in for Jay Cutler. Now we'll see what happens when he's called upon to be the guy for the next 3-4 weeks.
We'll find out because they play quickly. They play Thursday against Baltimore, Dolphins, and Ravens.
And they should be upset because we're still trying to figure out what's going on with Joe Flacco.
Their offense is unimaginably terrible. Right? I mean, the Ravens' offense is just startlingly terrible.
you look at it, and Joe has never been a high percentage guy, and I was never a high percentage guy myself, completing 60% of my passes. But, I mean, when you come out of games, you're 47, you're 48, you're just at 50, you throw 2 picks, no touchdown, and it's kind of like it's nothing to get into a rhythm. Like, you're watching the game, and you're just like, wow. Like, did he not complete that? Like, and it's really just kind of, Eli Manning. Eli Manning has been in, think of the class he's been in with he and Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers. Eli Manning has now fallen to be probably the worst one looking right now, at the quarterback position. And you have to really think about it. If they go 3-13 or 4, 4-12.
Do they draft the quarterback?
You have to.
It's a huge question.
You have to. You really have to. And I know people don't want to hear it, and I'm sure Archie would probably be a little upset about it. But
look, maybe Eli winds up down in Jacksonville, although, Bortles had a very big day yesterday.
It's funny how people bring up Jacksonville. I wouldn't want to go to Jacksonville.
Well, I don't know. Why?
Because Coughlin's there?
Well, no. They bring it up because Coughlin is there. That's the connection to Eli.
Yeah.
But, their defense, people are calling them Saxonville now. They're on pace to set the all-time record.
Well, they can sack the quarterback and they can run the football.
And they got Leonard Fournette. And when both the Allens are healthy, they have some receivers.
So the thought is if you have a veteran quarterback,
the question is, can Bortles get it done?
Who's he throwing to?
Again, they have the 2 Allens, right? They have Hearns and Robinson, but one of them is hurt now.
Yeah.
So
that's not Odell Beckham. That's not Shepard.
No, it's not.
They didn't have them either.
It's not. But
when they had them, they weren't winning.
Yeah.
Not this year. They weren't. They were in the playoffs last year, but they weren't scoring points. We're jumping around here a little. Mike and McNabb is in our studio. Let me ask you about this because this to me is always a fascinating dynamic. You're the quarterback, so you're the guy with the ball in his hands, and you're the guy who's got to make these decisions.
Right.
Clearly, Martavis Bryant, who is a very good player, but is clearly not anywhere near the number 1 option in Pittsburgh because he's got Antonio Brown on one side of the field and he's got Le'Veon Bell behind him. And now they have this kid, Juju Smith-Schuster, that people are excited about.
I liked him at USC.
20-year-old kid. Yeah, a lot of people like him. So he only got, I believe, 2 targets yesterday, Martavis Bryant, and 1 catch.
What was the first reverse in the beginning of the game?
Yeah.
That seemed like just to please him.
So that's the question. So now there's all this talk that he wants out. And he denied it last week, and now there's another story that Martavis Bryant is requesting a trade.
Yeah.
So when you're the quarterback and you've got a receiver, we know these receivers and their ego and all that, and we also understand that How much money they get paid is going to be dependent in large part about how big a part of the offense they are. And you've got a receiver, and you know he's upset about the number of times that he's being targeted.
Right.
How do you as the quarterback deal with that?
Well, I mean, the fact that I don't know much about receivers and they're complaining about not getting the ball, it's tough for me to figure that part out because every time that I handled the situation, it became a big story. The way that you handle it, as Ben Roethlisberger is now in that position, is the same way I handle it. Deal with it.
What does that mean? What does deal with it mean? Like, do you have to sit down and talk to him?
We're running the offense. We're running the offense, and he should know that Antonio Brown is the number one guy.
Be a professional.
And yeah, well, it's being professional, but if you have problems, go upstairs and talk about it. Don't go through the media. Don't try to leak things through your agent or through your marketing guys, whatever it may be. And I went through that whole situation. If you have a problem, let's talk about it. You know, and he and Ben have a great relationship where they kind of can be upfront. They had this whole situation when he came back from suspension, when Ben kind of called him out about, you know, the things that he was involved in and how it's affected not only him, but it affected the team. They were able to sit down and hash that out together. Why not do it again? Yeah, you may get 2 or 3 more catches, but it's not like you're going to come out of games with 9 or 10, 11 catches.
It's not happening.
Because it's just Antonio Brown show. And really, to be honest with you, the offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers is no longer the Antonio Brown show. It's the Le'Veon Bell show. And what was funny, because now I want to bring this up, because we went through a whole offseason of him not signing that franchise deal. Pay him. You have to pay him now in Pittsburgh. I know it's been quieted because of what's been going on. You have to pay Le'Veon Bell. Because Le'Veon Bell is on pace probably to rush for more times than he's ever done and have more total yards than he's ever had at Pittsburgh for a time when he sat out the whole preseason. And then they ran him so much against, Cleveland and different other. Now all of a sudden he's getting the ball 30 sometimes a game.
35 carries yesterday.
But that's not including the catches.
Right.
He's the ultimate weapon for that football team. Ben is getting older. I've been in that situation. You're just not the same guy. Ben gets hit consistently 3-4 times. You're going to start to see Ben take a knee. It's going to start to hurt him a little bit. When he went through it emotionally in the beginning where he said, you know what, I'm an old guy, I just don't have it anymore. Mentally, he's feeling that way. But he wants to go out and prove that he can still play this game. And what does he do? He goes back to a security blanket, being able to get Antonio Brown the ball more. Because there was a lot of times where they wanted to run a wide receiver screen to the right. It wasn't open. He went right back to Antonio Brown, ran a slant to the backside. That doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. But that's a security blanket that he knows he has, where that's a bailout.
So let's go to young quarterbacks in the building of a team, and this team has been looking to build for quite some time and gone through a lot of quarterbacks. Take us where we all can't go. Take us in the quarterback room in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with it as a quarterback when you're rotating starters, you're trying to be the leader of a team?
Yeah.
Get us in the locker room and on the practice field.
First of all, I don't know, can we say pissed off? I'm upset about the way that rookie quarterbacks are being treated. And I know head coaches are looking at it in a situation like, we want to put the best guys out there to help us win. You've made the decision to go with this young guy. Mm-hmm. You have to keep him out there. Let him get some experience and let the guys around him understand that they got to elevate their game. Don't kind of do an interchangeable deal at the quarterback position, because not only is it messing up his psyche, it's messing up everyone else's psyche as well. So if I'm in the quarterback room, I'm a rookie at Kaiser in the quarterback room. I'm completely upset. I'm upset because now I'm looking at Hogan. I'm looking at Kessler, of these guys that have won the game for me when I played bad. But when they play bad, it's like, I would just continue to go with them. I don't understand, where's the experience coming from? Where do I get a chance to learn and develop as a starting quarterback for this football team? Because I have to look at now Hugh Jackson and say, why did you take him? Because my question is, you had Osweiler, which you could have started for the first 4 or 5 games. You're still paying him. So start him for the first 4 or 5 games. If he's still not ready, then you have Cody Kessler, who's been on the roster, put him in there. And then when it's all said and done and you're ready to blow up the season, then you put Kaiser in there and just let him go. Don't just throw him in there at the beginning of the season and then you start to move him around, because mentally he's pretty much out of it at this particular point, because he don't know if you don't like him. He doesn't know if he's knowing the offense, or he doesn't even know if the guys around him are confident that he's going to be in there. Should make you look over
your shoulder while you're on the field, right?
Because you throw an interception, the first thing you do is you look over at the head coach to see his reaction. You come off on the side, and the thing that you're waiting on is the offensive coordinator to say, you know what, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to get this thing done. And then you look over at Cody Kessler, you're going in. And it's the same thing. It's ridiculous to me because we look at all these young quarterbacks. Jared Goff, for instance, I said it last year. The worst thing for him is to have a defensive-minded head coach, and there's no offensive guys there who can help develop him to be the quarterback position. We were saying he might have been the worst quarterback that was drafted first pick overall. Now, all of a sudden, to be honest with you, he might be the best quarterback in the NFC. And he might even lead the league in passing if Tom starts to fall off because of what McVay and what they've been able to do. This is the transition that we're going to see for a lot of different teams in the league. They're going to go with a young, innovative, offensive-minded guy to become the head coach, to develop their offense, and bring in an older vet at the defensive coordinator position to be able to get those defenders going.
And just very quickly, the other side of this, because when the Eagles drafted you number 2 overall, they had Doug Peterson, who now coincidentally is their head coach.
Right.
But he was there as a veteran who knew the system, and he was there to do 2 things.
And he started the first 10 games.
Right. And he mentored you.
Right.
So they've got a quarterback room full of 3 guys who, if you add up their ages, aren't 65 years old. I mean, they didn't keep any veteran in there to mentor Kaiser, whether he's on the field or not on the field. I think that was a mistake, too.
Well, again, you look at, and even when we talked about Case Keenum earlier, when Case Keenum was there with Jared Goff, at least he had played enough games in Houston, and at least he had played enough games where he could have, continued to prepare Jared Goff. There was nobody like that. I mean, even in Philadelphia, they had the guy who played in Missouri who's now backing up at
Chase Daniel.
Chase Daniel. Chase Daniels at least had been in a room with Alex, so he can kind of prepare him in that way. For Kaiser, it's no one really that you would even give the ball and say, hey, you know what, go run the team. Yeah. If you're having a quarterback competition still leading up to the first game of the year, that means there's a problem right now in the best room possible to help you win football games.
That's a disaster right now there, but it has been for a really long time. Donovan McNabb, we'll see you all over TV all day long. Thank you, D-Man.
Thank you so much for having me here. So exciting.
Congrats to your orange, too.
Last week.
Yeah, last week.
Well,
what was that? Just very quickly, what was that like? As a Syracuse alum, you were there in the glory days of Syracuse football. Obviously, it hasn't been that in a long time. But on a Friday night, so it's really a standalone game. You guys
Friday
beat
night
Clemson.
Football.
What was that like?
You know what? It was exciting because the last time that we beat Clemson was when I was a starter in the bowl game. And that was exciting because I have a lot of friends in Brad Dawkins and some other guys who I played against who are Clemson alums that I can talk trash to. Where the facts that now that I work with the BN Network in Miami, that Conference USA we follow, I work with 3 Miami alums. So this week was kind of tough, and then we end up losing the game, and it's kind of like, oh, here we go, trash talk. But I will say this: the Syracuse alums, we were very excited of what they've been able to do thus far in the ACC. Give a lot of credit to what he's been able to do. But I think going forward, we have something, and that's something we haven't been able to say over the last couple of years. So I'm excited about where my program's at. We're not where Notre Dame's at,
of
course,
but
we're getting there. I mean, we'll see what happens next year with Notre Dame.
It's well done, D-Mac.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT, home, safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. It was funny, after Donovan left, we were talking in the break. I asked him, because I did his games. I was calling games when he was in college, and I did more than a few Syracuse games. He was there, and when Dwight Freeney as well.
People who aren't old enough to remember, they were good when he.
Yes, they were.
Obviously, they had a great quarterback and a great player.
I asked him. I said, "Did you have a win like that? 2 weeks ago when Syracuse beat Clemson, when Clemson was number 2 in the country. Did you have a win?" And he said one of their big ones was against a Virginia Tech team. He said, as a matter of fact, he said the last time the students rushed the field, this is what he said, was that game his senior year when they beat Virginia Tech. And he said the interesting about that, he said everybody was on the field. He was running around going nuts on the field. He turned around. His mom had made it onto the field and rushed out of the field. His dad stayed in the stands. His mom made it all the way down on the field, and he's running around celebrating. He looks and he goes, "Mom?"
Well, he needed to make soup for
everybody. There you go.
That's
exactly right.
His mom, for those not old enough to remember, became a star. They did these Campbell's Chunky Soup commercials together. But he was a terrific college player. I remember him in high school.
What he was in
He grew up with Antoine Walker, and the two of them were both great high school football and basketball players. But anyway, the point of it is Syracuse, we'll see what winds up happening with them. I've got a bunch of stuff we have not gotten to all morning long today, so I've been setting it. Let's just get to it here. I got a ton of sound bites. Let's do them as At the Mics, brought to you by Dave and Buster's. Watch the games and play the games at your football headquarters, Dave and Buster's. A ton of sound from yesterday in the NFL that I've meant to get in all morning long, and we never did. So let's play them all for you here. First off, this is Ryan Clark last night on the quarterback situation in Miami. After Cutler goes down, in comes Matt Moore and wins the game against the Jets. You'll hear Scott Van Pelt asking Ryan Clark the question.
The injury to Cutler is what for the Dolphins?
The best thing that's ever happened to the Miami Dolphins organization.
Whoa.
Period. They were undefeated. They were wrapped by Mercury, all that.
Okay.
Absolute best thing.
I'll bite. Why?
Because now you have a quarterback who's engaged, a quarterback who cares, who's efficient, who understands this team, how you want things run, and he makes plays. Listen, he threw for 188 yards today, 2 touchdowns. He brings you back into a game which your other quarterback essentially was trying to throw you out of. You have Jarvis Landry, you have Kenny Stills, you have a good running game. He's the type of quarterback you need.
We'll see. I mean, again, he's been a backup for a reason. There are those that thought maybe give him the chance to be a starter, but Adam Gase wanted, Cutler was familiar with the offense. I think I have had issues with Cutler, but I think there are times he gets a bad rap as well. We'll see. Matt Moore will have every chance in mind. They're 4-2. They are right in it. So he will have every chance, I think, to have that job. If they're playing well in the next few weeks before Jay Cutler comes back, Adam Gase, to me, it would be foolish to go back to Jay Cutler. This is a point where both these guys are just filling in for possibly still your quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Let me put it this way. Neither one of these guys is a quarterback of your future, okay? Neither one of these guys is the quarterback for the next 3, 4, 5 years and beyond for the Miami Dolphins. If Adam Gase is going to be the head coach, it's not going to be these guys. They're stopgaps right now. So you pick the best one. Who's doing the best right now? And if Matt Moore has a hot hand for the next few weeks, you stay with him. If he doesn't, you'll go back to Cutler. You hear a lot of people, you hear some like Ryan Clark saying the best thing that happened to him, and you hear others that said, let's wait a minute. You're a backup quarterback for a reason, and that eventually will start to show. And if it does start to show, then, Adam Gase will have a decision to make.
Which team are you buying into more? There's 3 teams right now at the top of the AFC East. New England, let's put them aside. We obviously buy into them. You buying Miami or Buffalo?
Probably Buffalo because of their defense. I usually lean toward when I'm breaking it. And you got LaShawn McCoy, who's a game changer. Every time he touches a ball, he can bust it on you. Tyrod Taylor can certainly move and make things happen as well. Throws pretty well. But I like their defense a lot as well. So that's what would make me separate.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Miami wins these crazy games.
Yep.
I mean, every week they were down 14 points in the fourth quarter in consecutive weeks.
You hold
won
your breath.
Both games.
They're a breath-holding team. You're not sure which way it's going to go.
So I totally agree with you on Buffalo. Next, soundbite that I wanted you to hear. You've probably seen video of it if you were watching other games yesterday of what happened on the sideline with Seattle.
Yep.
And they seem to have a lot of stuff like that with the Seahawks, and they always they seem to get mad at anyone when anyone brings it up.
Yeah.
You're like, why are you even asking us about this? So yesterday, Doug Baldwin, from what it looked like to me, was shoving the offensive line coach, Tom Cable. Now, I mean, that just seemed to be what was happening.
He was talking to somebody else, and Cable's trying to get in the way and just kind of pushed at him. Yeah, it's exactly right.
So here was Doug Baldwin afterwards explaining what happened.
I lost my cool. It's 100% my fault. At that moment, I was really frustrated with the team as a whole, offense as a whole. Not the coaching staff, the players. Again, it goes back to our X's and O's. We had the play calls, we just didn't execute. Whether it was passing the ball, blocking, catching, jumping off sides, false starting, whatever it may be. We weren't executing as players. And to me, there's nothing a coach can say. We have to take accountability for that.
Listen, you hear what he's talking about. It wasn't I, me. Okay, at least from what I understand, or what I have been told to believe what was going on there. It wasn't throw me. He had a heck of a game.
Yep.
He got a lot of balls thrown his way. It wasn't throw me the ball more, even like we saw with Antonio Brown being targeted, all that, and say, why didn't you throw me to this one when I'm wide open? He had issues with the offense. So I can separate that. If you're losing your mind on the offense because you're not getting yours, I got an issue with that. You know, that's selfishness. You know, if you're on there as a team frustrated for what's going on with the team, you know me, I don't have a big problem with sideline blow-ups. You know, I remember we were discussing Antonio Brown. People say, oh, Tom Brady can go nuts, and we call it great leadership, Antonio Brown, and we jump on him. Are you kidding me? I mean, Tom Brady is not saying I, me. You know, it's not saying I'm open, throw it to me. You know, from what I understand, again, Doug Baldwin was talking about the team, not, hey, give it to me the ball more. It wasn't about him. It was about team. And there's frustration that happens. So I will overlook team type of blow-ups on the sideline, and they've had them. Listen, that team's pretty damn good. Okay? And they have some blow-ups on the sideline. The blow-ups aren't costing them. You know, and again, their team aspect, frustration, emotional blow-ups, which I will deal with a lot more than, hey, I'm not getting mine or something's going on with me, so I'm going to have a temper tantrum on the sideline.
They feel like sort of a volatile group all the time.
They are a volatile group.
And so you get a little bit of that, and yeah, they win. I guess
it's also a Pete Carroll way. I'm sorry, a Pete Carroll way of coaching. He kind of lets the players be themselves,
right.
and that's something that comes with it.
The question is, when you're losing, does it start to cause different kinds of problems? They haven't had to answer that because they really haven't done a lot of losing.
Like they're kind of answering over the last couple of weeks in Denver.
Correct.
With the offense not doing a whole lot and the defense, a lot of pressure on them. And
I want you to hear, as we continue, Louis Riddick's take on a team that no one expected anything from, that may be legitimately emerging as a Super Bowl contender. Plus, you will hear from a man who had one of the great streaks of all time coming to an end yesterday. Plus, a tweeter just sent me a note about a trade that might make a lot of sense.
Mike, reminding you, if you miss any of the show, including James Franklin, head coach of Penn State, in Hour 3, you can listen to all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. And now you can subscribe to our Best of podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
How about dogs? So Stace put Phoebe in a Bears hat,
right, and
tweeted at me that I may have gotten the kids, but she got the dog. Where does the dog fall in the wearing of jerseys sort of thing? Like, if you're a crazy fan, I'm just going to use my own personal example of the Jets, and your wife puts the dog like in a Patriots costume for Halloween, are you trick-or-treating with the dog?
Sure you are.
No, you're not. You can't trick-or-treat with
sure
a dog.
And listen, if she got the dog and you got the kid, as far as fandom, you won.
I agree. That's a win. Because
so that's a win. So you just take it. Don't start a problem there. All you're going to do is, magnify the problem then. Let her have the dog.
That's correct, because the dog doesn't know what's going on in the game.
No, well, we say that, though. Do we really think the dog's
I don't
know?
think the dog knows who's winning.
I don't know.
Knows. I think the dog, in my house at least, the dog has been conditioned to know that if that sound is coming from the television, I'm going to sit in this one spot on the couch and play this game that she likes with her tennis ball all the time. So the second I put football on, and she hears any kind of cheering, it's amazing the way dogs learn this stuff.
Yeah.
She runs right over, picks up a tennis ball, and comes over and sits in front of me, because that's what I do. I'll just sit there and throw the ball in the air, and she catches it. And she'll do that for 28 hours in a row.
The thing is that they do it for different reasons. They hear the game, so the dog, Phoebe, goes over, picks up the ball, and said, I got to go give therapy to this idiot again because this team's going to lose.
It is the only thing keeping
him sane is throwing this ball to me. I hate catching this ball all the time, but I know it keeps him sane.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I was going to get a couple of sound bites in here, but I think it's worth mentioning, Mike, the last remaining NFL holdout is going in. Dwayne Brown, according to multiple reports that I'm seeing here, is going to report to the Texans, and as you said, that's not a surprise.
Well, no, it's not, because what's worse than missing half your paycheck? Missing your entire paycheck.
Correct.
And having the season not count for you. Understand what Week 8 means is if you're in after that, the year doesn't count for you. It doesn't go toward a year counting for you.
Right.
So he has to be in now, and then obviously half your salary as well. So guys that really say, I'm really going to hold out, usually this is the point they hold out to. And he took it to about a max the players will go in this situation, and that doesn't even happen a lot.
But the point is, the rich get richer, right? The Texans are a good team.
They are.
And they've been doing it without their left tackle. Now they get their left tackle back.
Exactly
so give him
right.
2 weeks or whatever it takes to get himself into shape and playing at his best. I mean, what better friend does a rookie quarterback have than a good left tackle?
Agreed.
So that could actually be a significant story going forward. The trade that was suggested, I'd love to give it credit where it was due. Someone tweeted it at me. I'll go back and try and find it. Of a trade that might make sense. If Martavis Bryant really does want to be traded out of Pittsburgh, which there have been so many reports suggesting that now it seems impossible to believe it isn't at least a little bit true. How about the Bears? The Bears are a team that lost all their wide receivers to injury. It seems to happen to them every single year. They try and develop a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback. He managed to win a game yesterday while completing 4 passes, which is unbelievable. So how about the Bears offer something, I don't know what it would take, to Pittsburgh to try and pry Martavis Bryant out of there before the trade deadline?
Well, first and foremost, is Bryant a problem on that team where you need to get rid of him? Because if not, if you get him for 1 or 2 catches a game, they could be big ones. This guy knows how to – we've seen him in the past find the end zone. I did read about how – he's a self-made man. He had no support. Everything he's done himself. Well, he's got himself and his own issues. So, I mean, let's not get out of hand and be feeling sorry. So, look at he's self-made. He was the reason for a lot of his own issues there. But as far as a receiver going to Chicago, I get it. They have 3 receivers right now that have 20 or more catches. The leading receiver is a running back, Tariq Cohen. And then tied at 20 is Zach Miller, your tight end, and just 1 wide receiver, Kendall Wright. So they certainly could use that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If that will ever happen, I have no idea. But they're a team that could use a wide receiver.
The trade deadline's about a week away. It was Anthony Griffin, I found the tweet, who tweeted that at me. So, Anthony, thank you for the suggestion. It's one that makes a little bit of sense. I've always thought Martavis Bryant was a really good player. Antonio Brown is so good that it makes you wonder sometimes, well, our defense is so worried about him that it leaves the other guy more open, and now they've got Bell. And so Bryant has become a decreased part of that offense. And, of course, he was, for those who don't know, he was suspended for an entire year for repeated marijuana violations. So that also becomes a consideration, because if he has another issue like that, right, you lose him. But I've always thought he was a good player, and he's still pretty young. So that's one that might make a little bit of sense if you want to bring a guy in there for Trubisky to continue to work with.
But if you're Pittsburgh, do you get rid of him? I mean, unless he's being a problem, you get rid of him?
Well, if he continues to say he wants to be traded, it seems to be turning into a little bit of a situation.
I would wonder. I mean, we've heard about situations going on in that locker room a little bit. If it's a detriment, okay, but...
Well, he posted something yesterday on Instagram, then took it down.
Juju Schuster,
So I don't know if it's an issue or not inside there, but I do know if that is a consideration, he's talking about wanting to be traded, maybe that's a place that would make sense. All right, let's finish it up with a prediction, Mike. You got Washington and Philadelphia tonight in Philly. Eagles are a 5.5-point favorite in Vegas. They are, according to our analytics, a 7-point FPI favorite, which means they have a 70% chance to win. Kirk Cousins in his career is 0-6 against opponents who are at least 3 games over 500. The Eagles are 5-1, Golic says.
I like this game in Philly. I like the way the offense is running the ball. I like the way the defense is playing right now. I still think Washington's trying to, that old find the identity thing of where are they. I do like Thompson, the running back that they starting to give the ball to and throw the ball to as well. So I like to see where that develops. Look, again, you go sit there on the line of scrimmage. Brandon Sheriff, the right guard, and Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle. Watch that for a fun matchup amongst the big men.
I like the Eagles, too. See you tomorrow. Back here, same time, same place. Mike and Mike.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.